Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and this will be my first video in this series on Masonite 4. So I've done some videos on Masonite over the years. It's a framework I've been following because it's really cool. So what is Masonite first? If you've used PHP and you've used Laravel, or you've used Ruby and you've used Rails, you're probably very familiar with a sort of particular pattern of doing the backend, which is really nice in these sort of more robust frameworks that kind of give you all the bells and whistles, the batteries included. Now, while every framework has batteries included frameworks that kind of give you all the bells and whistles, not all of them kind of have the nice, simple structure of a Rails or a Laravel, especially in Python, where the main batteries included framework is Django, which Django is one of the older frameworks and has its own quirks and its own way of doing things, which can, at least to me, be sometimes confusing. Calling what I would normally call, controller functions, calling them views and referring to routes as URLs, and its old folder structures is quite unique. While once you get the hang of Django, there's plenty of things to like about it. I definitely find the Laravel Rails patterns and structure much more intuitive. So Masonite really kind of brings that kind of structure to Python and allows you to have a backend framework that does that. And there's been several iterations. So now they just released Masonite 4, and you should definitely join the Masonite community. They have a new Discord channel where you can hang out and you can talk to the creators and the code writers and help contribute. Highly encourage doing so because it's a really cool framework worth supporting. But yeah, so they just released version 4, which is supposed to have some fairly under the hood big differences. So I wanted to kind of start doing a tutorial series on Masonite 4. I also want to go visit FullTS, which is a JavaScript framework that I'm also a big fan of, that kind of in the same vein, but for JavaScript. And yeah, so let's get to it. So let's just show you how you would set up a Masonite project. So here I made a Masonite 4 folder. So the idea here is that this is going to be the folder where I'm going to be doing all my Masonite 4 projects. So what I'm going to do is create a virtual environment that I can use for those projects. So what I'm going to do is just create a new terminal. And if you're new to Python or you haven't done virtual environments all that much before, all a virtual environment is like creating a little isolated area for your dependencies. So in this case, pretty much probably all my Masonite 4 projects will have similar dependencies. So I'm going to create one virtual environment for installing dependencies for Masonite projects. But the idea behind that is just to isolate dependencies. Kind of like if you've used JavaScript, using your package.json to list your dependencies. The Python virtual environment does the same thing. There's plenty of different ways you can do a Python virtual environment, using things like pipenv, using conda, but there's now a built-in module for building virtual environments, which is built right into Python since I think since 3.4. And right now I think I'm on 3.10. Let's see here, Python -- version. Yeah, I'm on 3.10. So it's been there for a while. But basically the way it works is you do Python -m venv. So I'm saying, hey, I want to use the virtual environment module, meaning I want to create a virtual environment. And I'll give it a name. So we'll just call it, Masonite. Okay, now what that's going to do is going to create like a little folder here called Masonite. Okay, and in there's a folder, some folders in there, and you can call it whatever you want. Here's a folder called bin. Bin always stands for binaries. And then there's a script in there, activate. The idea is when you run that, that's going to change the configurations on your computer for that terminal that I have open. So that way, whenever I try to install things in Python, it's not installing it into my global Python environment, but into this mini Python environment that I've created. Okay, so I want to turn that on, but it only takes effect for this particular terminal. So if I were to create a new fresh terminal, that new fresh terminal is once again working off of my global Python environment. So the way I would do that is I'd say source, which means I want to run binary code. And I'd say the code that I want to run is /masonite /bin for the binary folder /activate. And see, now it's on. So you can see here that that's a sign that I am using that Masonite environment. And if I ever want to turn it off, I can just deactivate it. Just type in deactivate, and it's gone. And then I can just run this command again if I want to turn it back on. Okay, So there you go. You've created a Python virtual environment. So now that I have in there, I can do a pip install. So let's actually just follow the directions in case we have to install. I think now Masonite just the normal Masonite just points to Masonite 4. You don't longer have to do like a flag or anything like that. Okay, so this is just some pre-setup in case you don't have this stuff installed on your computer already, some libraries. So you just read through the documentation, this sort of pre-setup. You do need a later version of Python, 3.7 or higher. Okay, and pip3. So again, if you're using an older version of Python, even an older version of Python 3 may not work too well with Masonite. So you want to make sure you have a newer version of Python. If you have an older version and you want to keep that older version, then you want to install something called pyenv, which allows you to switch between versions of Python. So that's pyenv. That's the name of the software. Okay, so what we're going to do is install Masonite. So this is just setting up the virtual environment. We've done that. So yeah, I just do pip install Masonite. Okay, and that's going to install Masonite. Nice. Cool. Now what we want to do is create a folder for our project. So I'll just call this like maker project 1. So that way I have an empty folder called project 1. This is the preferred way of setting it up. I could do like, if I wanted to do a new project, I could do like project start, then give it a folder name. But from my experience with previous versions of Masonite, it'll actually give you a much sort of full setup if you just do it within the folder. So you do the dot, meaning, hey, start the project in the current folder. So, but just to confirm that we have Masonite 4 installed, I'm going to do pip list, which lists everything I've installed so far in this environment. So let's look for Masonite, and there's Masonite 4.1. Nice. Okay, so we are using Masonite 4. I'm going to cd into that project folder, so cd project 1. And then what I'm going to do is do project start dot. Okay, cool. So that created my project. So now if I open up project 1, I see all my project folders. We'll go through all this in a second. And then if I want to just test out the server, make sure that this application is just kind of like its default setup is working, I can just do craft serve. So if you've used Rails, you've done like Rails serve, Rails migrate, or you've done Laravel and you've done like artisan, I think it's like artisan serve, artisan migrate, then this is the same thing. Craft, think of craft as your Rails, as your artisan in those other frameworks. Okay, so craft serve. Masonite project 1. I guess now I have to do Python craft serve. Before I could just do it standalone, let's just see. Yep. Okay, so now you have to have the Python. Before, when you would actually be able to just do craft serve, but okay, that's fine. Python craft serve. And now the server is running. Okay, and now what I can do is I can go to localhost 8000. And there is, and see there's a link to the Discord community, the documentation. So yeah, go join it up. I'm in the Discord community. You can go talk to all the creators and the people who work on the code there and whatnot. And also make sure to join the Discord community for devnursery.com. That's my site, because it's cool and we can hang out and you can ask me questions. Cool. So that's basically it for us like serving a new project. Now let's just kind of go through the folders. So if you've used Rails or PHP Laravel, you know that there's generally a folder where all your controllers are going to be. Your controllers being classes where you're going to write functions that can then be attached to routes. A lot of that's going to be done here in the app folder, so more similar to Laravel in that regard. But you go to the app folder, and then there's going to be a folder called controllers, and then there's where all your controllers will be. So like here's an example, the welcome controller. Okay. Then there's a folder for middleware. We'll go over that at a later point. And there's a folder for your models. And that's where all your models will be. Okay. Now, my routes will be inside the routes folder. So this will be more like Laravel as far as folder structure than Rails. because Rails, everything's inside that like that config folder, and you have that routes.rb. So here with this web dot, but very similar to all those frameworks. Basically, what it is the routes is really just one big array of these function calls: route.get, route.put, route.post, and then what you do is you say, hey, this is the URL, this is the controller, and the function on that controller that I want to run. Again, similar to Laravel or Rails. So if you're familiar with these patterns, and that's why I like it. Okay, I rather there be consistent patterns across languages than like every time I go to a new language and learn a new backend framework, everything's different. So very similar, like Buffalo for Go follows these patterns. Rocket for Rust kind of follows these patterns. Rust just because of the nature of Rust and the way it handles very strict typing makes everything just a little bit more complicated. Trying to think what other languages have I tried. Now, if we talk about like .NET and Java Spring, they have their kind of their own sort of whole. They're very similar, but very different than the other things. And yeah, and then if you go to JavaScript, Nest.js, Full.ts both also have very similar structures and how everything kind of gets wired up. So, cool. Now, also, we're going to be doing more templating in this set of tutorials. So that means generating the pages, making this a full stack application versus like an API, although we'll explore that as well. So templates would get stored here in the templates folder. Okay, so you can see some base HTML templates. It does use Jinja, just like Django or pretty much any Python framework uses Jinja as their templating language. And Jinja just allows you to it allows you to do templating, but also sprinkle in some Python into your templates. Okay, and then there's just other things around here, but that we'll go through as we go through. But that's kind of the basic folder structure to be aware of. Again, you have your .env file, which has a lot of important variables like your app key, which is required for the application to just run. Okay, so when you deploy this, you want to make sure that you have these environmental variables defined wherever you deploy it, whether it's Heroku or on your own VPS. You want to make sure that you have the key variables here, like your database credentials, and so forth. Okay, but we'll leave it at that for now. I'll see you all later. My name is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Ciao.